Bless the name of the Lord. I was just allowing that to soak in a little bit. God still reigns over our circumstances. He still reigns. Man, what a song. What an acknowledgement that God reigns. You ought to acknowledge that in your life. You are the only one who can allow him to reign in your life. And I would encourage you, if you're not allowing the Lord to reign in your life, you need to make an adjustment. You need to make a change and allow the Lord to reign in your life. And the beauty of it is, as the song says, through all of our circumstances, he gives us another chance, and he reigns. He reigns over everything. Well, I've got to stop and pause and acknowledge that Lady Ann just popped in with us. Good morning, Lady Ann. Once again, we are always delighted when she joins us each and every morning. She's with us. Deacon Randy Spearman, good morning to you, Jennifer Lee, and all the rest of you. Those of you I haven't had an opportunity to greet this morning, Sandy Robinson, good morning, each and every one of you. Just by way of letting you know, those of you that may feel as though you may need a life coach, I'm available. I have slots open and available. All you have to do is go to my website, and the web address is streaming at the bottom of the screen. And we'd be more than delighted to take you on as a client. Now, please understand, my services are for fee, not for free. Not free 99. That doesn't work. But it's an investment in yourself. And I think it's important for us to come to the realization that there are times when it's absolutely necessary for us to make investments in ourselves, rather. Don't think about the money that you'll spend, but think about the encouragement that you'll gain, the push that you'll gain, and all the benefits that you'll gain from engaging someone that's going to do everything possible to help you to discover who you are and your purpose, and to get you moving forward in terms of your dreams and your visions. All right. So again, the website is at the bottom of the screen. Visit the website, send me a notification, and let me know that you're interested in my coaching services. And just so you'll know, I conduct all of my coaching via Zoom. You don't have to worry about traveling from one place to another or meet me in a certain spot. But I'm telling you, we get just as much done, and likely more done by meeting through Zoom as we would meeting in person. Now, I'm not opposed to that, but you all know how everything is right now with COVID. And, people have just gotten used to things being a little bit more convenient. And so if you're concerned about having the time traveling back and forth and having to make time to meet up with me in a certain place, no, you can cut right to the chase and we can meet live via Zoom. And it has worked. Some of my clients that I'm presently engaging, and those that I have taken through sessions of coaching, they have expressed how much coaching has benefited them. And one of these days we'll have a few video clips of people who will testify of how coaching has benefited them. Okay. So again, I invite you to at least explore, look into it. We'll be happy to help you along your way. Hey, how about this? On yesterday, I was talking about how this whole time change thing has worn me out, and I feel like enough is enough. I'm over it. I'm so over it. And I mentioned the fact that I wish that they would just set the time and leave it alone. Well, unbeknownst to me, they were already working on it. Isn't that a wonderful thing? One of the first things that I heard after getting off of Morning Mocha, listening to a news broadcast, is that the Senate has already passed a bill to keep daylight savings time as it is. Just keep everything. I think they call it the Sunlight Preservation Bill, something to that nature. And now all they have to do is pass it through the House. And when they pass it through the House and President Biden signs the bill, wow, it'll be set. It'll be like it is from here on out. I can live with that. My gosh, it will make me feel so much better to have things just set. We don't have to worry about flip-flopping and changing things. The next thing that I would pray that they would do is that yeah, I wish we could just pay our taxes through the year and not worry about filing every year. Every year. It's around that time right now. Sometimes that stuff can be an absolute headache, you know. I wish there was a system where we just paid our taxes. I paid my taxes, leave me alone. But I know they probably feel like they'll lose too much money doing it that way, you know. But I'm telling you, it seems like tax time rolls up on us so fast. It seemed like I just finished mailing in all my taxes. Now I'm exaggerating there, but it seemed like I just did that for last year's taxes, and here we are, right back once again having to file these taxes. And we know that we're now under the wire now. We're less than 30 days away from needing to have all of that done and meeting the deadlines for filing our taxes. And you need to file your taxes if you haven't in the past. Don't make the mistake of letting it pile up on you. It can really, really create a problem for you. But yeah. So again, they got the daylight savings time thing on down the road. Seem like they're going to get that handled. I just wish that they would just do something about this tax thing. Well, I know that's not what I came on here to talk to you all about, and that's not what you all came on here to listen to. But every now and then, I just throw out a few tidbits of information that I think would be interesting and kind of get you stirred up with a little bit of discussion, because I know that I'm not the only way feeling the way I feel about neither daylight savings time nor the whole tax thing. Now, I know some of you that may be on here say, well, I'm not going to comment on that tax thing because I don't want to draw attention to myself. If you owe back taxes or whatever, I don't blame you. I'd remain anonymous as well. But again, just use wisdom when it comes to those things. Listen, today I want to talk to you about avoiding burnout. Avoiding burnout. Now, all of us know that life can get to be a bit stressful at times. Now, actually, life can get to be very stressful at times. I've discovered that stress is not always easily detected. Some medical practitioners have labeled stress as the silent killer. It's labeled that way because of how stress tends to build up slowly in an individual, ultimately adversely affecting a person's mental, emotional, spiritual, and even physical state of being. Yes, stress can affect you physically. It can do physical damage to you if it's not properly managed. Your body does not respond well to unmanaged stress. I am a witness to that. I have experienced my body doing some crazy things because of the amount of stress I was under at the given time. I remember when I was going through a very, very, very challenging time in my life. This is absolutely true, y'all. And I developed this rash in my scalp. I went to the dermatologist and all of that, and they gave me creams and everything, and nothing seemed to work. Absolutely nothing. It was so bad that my scalp would randomly bleed at times. I mean, just randomly bleed. And the thing that covered it up was that I had a good amount of hair at the time. Yeah, when I was wearing my little box cut things that it was covering it up pretty good. And but I could tell when my scalp was bleeding. I would take a paper towel, white paper towel, and just lay it in the top of my head and press down on it. And when I would pull it back, it would be covered with blood. No one knew this really but me. And it's because of how my scalp was feeling at the time. But I was under a lot of stress at that particular time. and the situation that was creating the stress changed. And I promise y'all, when that situation changed, my scalp healed almost immediately. I mean, almost immediately. And I have never had that problem ever again in my lifetime. And when I had gone to the doctor to try to figure out, the dermatologist, to try to figure out what was going on, I'm going to tell you what actually brought my awareness to what was going on. I was having a conversation with my mother, and I was explaining to her what was going on with my scalp, and I actually demonstrated to her by taking a paper towel and showing it to her, the blood that would come off on the paper towel. And she says, "Son, that ain't nothing but stress. With everything that's going on in your life, that's stress. That's what's going on. If the doctors can't figure it out, if they're giving you creams and prescriptions and all of that to take care of that situation, and it's not taking care of the situation, and they have no answer to the problem," she said, "I'll tell you, it is stress." Y'all heard the phrase that mother knows best? Well, in this case, mother absolutely knew what was best. She knew exactly what was going on. And she began to explain to me then how stress can mess with you physically. Stress can literally make you sick. And again, your body does not respond well to unmanaged stress. And sure enough, sure as my name is Tony D. Cobbins, when that stressful situation was removed out of my life, when things changed, my scalp healed. That's amazing. Some of you have things going on with your body right now, and you can't figure out why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. But you have given no consideration to the fact of how much stress you may be under at any given time, how much stress you may be presently under. You know, people often acknowledge the effects of stress without knowing exactly what it is. Statements that many of us often make, which are unconscious acknowledgments of feeling the effects of stress, are statements like, "You're getting on my nerves." How many of you have said that and really meant it? You weren't just saying it just to fill in some words or, to blow a person off, but you really meant what you were saying. "You are getting on my nerves." How about this one? "You're giving me a headache." How many of you have actually felt as though that someone else was giving you a headache by the things they were doing in your presence or doing to you? That's an acknowledgement of, "I'm feeling stress." How about this one? "You're about to drive me crazy." All of us have said stuff like that before. That's an acknowledgement of your stress levels being raised, and they're adversely affecting you. I know parents have said that before. If they have children, more than one, who are acting somewhat rambunctious at any given time, not doing what they are told to do, you'll blurt it out in a minute. "Y'all about to drive me crazy. Get somewhere and sit out." Those are indications of acknowledging the fact that there is a situation that has been created around you that are causing your stress levels to rise. What about this one? "I just can't take this anymore. I can't take it anymore. Something's got to change." I know I've been there. I know that I have been there. And again, what you don't realize when you're making those statements, you're acknowledging the fact that your stress levels are constantly rising as a result of what's going on around you. These are statements indicating that you have reached your limit of tolerance for any given situation. And ironically, there are times when you feel that way about some things or some people that you actually love. It doesn't mean you don't love the people. It doesn't mean you don't love the situation. But there have been some things that have occurred that have affected your peaceableness surrounding that situation or surrounding dealing with uh, the people that you love most. And when that happens, things start to change with you. Things start to subtly change with you. And you don't always instantaneously detect the changes. They happen in such small increments that you don't even notice it yourself until you're almost too far gone. What starts to occur is that your sense of motivation for doing what you love starts to dwindle. The thing that once fueled your passions has now become irritating, and you don't even understand why. You know you love doing what you're doing, but at a certain point, that thing becomes irritating. You start feeling as though you need to avoid the people that you typically love to be around. Some of that is attributed to your stress levels being raised. And you really, in all actuality, you really believe that it's really not that their fault, although they may be doing some things not to intentionally hurt you. But certain things just start to get on your nerves. Things that you used to wouldn't bother you would start to get on your nerves. And it's all because your stress levels have been raised. Concerning the thing with regards to people around you, people that you love, I've been in situations where people who have been eating meals together forever, I mean forever, all of a sudden one day one says to the other, "Why you got to chew your food like that?" You've been watching them chew their food like that forever and a day. And now just the chewing of their food all of a sudden irritates you. Well, the problem really isn't with them chewing their food. The problem is you have unmanaged stress that you have not dealt with, that has built up to a level of intolerance, and now everything is starting to bother you. People start to irritate you with the smallest thing. Why you got to look like that? Look like what? Why are you even here? How about I live here? I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. Those kind of things happen, and all of us, for the most part, have felt that way for one reason or another, and we blame it mostly on the situation, but where we should be laying the blame is on unmanaged stress. You start feeling that way, and that's when you start to lose your sense of drive, and you find yourself just going through the motions. Does anybody ever feel that way at times? You feel like you're just going through the motions. You're almost robotic in nature. You've lost your joy. You've lost your enthusiasm. You've lost your jovialness. And you think to yourself, well, I just can't stand dealing with situations or being around people anymore. And what you don't understand is because of the way you're acting due to your unmanaged stress, is people are thinking the same thing about you. Now, in actuality, it's not that that your affinity for these things or people has changed. Instead, you are experiencing burnout and have failed to identify it as it being the real problem. You're just burned out to some degree. You have identified the things and the people around you as the problem, when the reality is the real problem is within you and not just around you. Think about this. You have literally overworked yourself in some form, in some way or another. You have unconsciously allowed the slow buildup of stress to finally overwhelm you. I mean, it's jumped on you bad, and you haven't handled that situation. Now, of course, since you've never identified the issues as stress related, neither have you taken the necessary measures to manage the stress you have experienced. Some people literally don't have a clue as to how to manage their stress. And rather than looking inwardly, they look externally. Instead of looking within, they look at everything around them and they blame everything and everybody around them for their situation. Michelle, yes, a lot of people fall in this category of trying to be Superwoman or Superman. You think yourself to be invincible. You keep reassuring yourself or supporting your position of denial by saying stuff like, I got this. You're so bent on trying to show people or prove to people that you're strong that you're ignoring the real problem, and that is that sense of burnout that you're actually feeling. Those levels of stress have reached levels beyond your control, if you will. Again, in many professional circles, this unmanaged stress is labeled as burnout. It's mental burnout. It's emotional burnout, which ultimately leads to physical burnout. What has happened is you've reached your limit or your levels of tolerance or endurance, and something has to be done about it for the sake of your personal preservation. Listen, please, those of you that work jobs wherein you're really working your mental capacity, which ultimately affects your emotional capacity. Don't get it twisted. And don't let anybody try to convince you of this otherwise. Sometimes when you're working that brain, it works more on you physically than actually working a physical job. I remember when I was a drafting clerk for Southwestern Bell, I used to draw the maps that told us where all of our cables and wires underground and on poles and all of our poles and we called it our outside plant. That's what it was referred to. When I worked that job, sitting there drawing those maps all day, and then there were times I had to make certain calculations to make sure that the cable numbering, if you will, and the flow of the current from the main office out to the customer, I had to do certain calculations with regards to footage or yardage and all that kind of thing. I had to do certain calculations with regards to how much power one cable has as opposed to another cable, which fed off that cable, and make sure that those numbers line up. Otherwise, something hasn't been recorded properly. Now, I know I'm talking a little bit a great deal of foreign information here to you, but I'm trying to give it to you in layman's terms so you'll have a reasonable understanding of what I had to deal with. But when I worked that job, I would literally leave that job totally exhausted. When I transferred out into becoming a repair technician, where I had to climb those poles that I was drawing, where I had to actually repair the cables and install service to customers and repair service to customers. When I transferred into that job, which was more physical than the job of me being a drafting clerk, I was more worn out physically from doing the drafting clerk work than I was from doing the physical work of climbing poles and ladders and running wires and fixing cables and all of that, And so I'm saying this to you because of the fact that a lot of times when you have a job that pulls on your intellectual capacity, not only will it drain you mentally and emotionally, but it will take a physical toll. It literally takes a physical toll on you. I have told you on so many occasions how I feel after I'm done preaching. Lady Ann, she'll tell you that if I don't keep moving right after I'm done preaching, if I sit down for any length of time, I'm out like a light. I am knocked out. Why? Because the emotional, the mental, and in that case, the spiritual pull that's on me while I'm preaching, it has a way of overwhelming me even physically. There's somewhat of a stress level that's even now associated with me preaching. And I had to come to acknowledge that. And the reason why it's important for me to acknowledge it, not just me, but any preacher who has that kind of assignment, who's really serious about their calling and put themselves into what God has called them to do, they have to acknowledge at times that it can be stressful, so they can in turn begin to manage that stress. I can remember when I first started preaching and that was happening to me. I was thinking, man, I must be just lazy for me to just pass out like that almost after I'm done preaching. But then I saw some data that was scientifically gathered from studies that were conducted on the physical state of a pastor or a preacher after they're done preaching. And scientists concluded that a 30-minute sermon can equate to 8 hours of physical hard labor. It blew me away. I was like, wow. I used to hear preachers say that, but I thought they were just, exaggerating, trying to make people feel sorry for them. That was wrong for me to feel that way. But I just thought that. I'm like, oh man, how can that be? But when I found myself in that situation, and then when I read the data from the scientific study, it blew me away. There are things that we're just not aware of. We think that because we sit in a plush chair in our on our jobs and we're doing mental work as opposed to physical work, then the mental work is much easier than the physical work. When actually just the opposite is true. Sometimes the mental work is much harder than the physical work. Why? Because what's all going on while you're working mentally. Now, of course, there are some mental things going on when you're doing physical work. You can't do physical work without the mental being engaged. Otherwise, you're going to have a serious problem. I mean, I acknowledge that. I know that to be the case. But when you're doing more mental work, it just pulls on you in every way that it possibly can. And that's when people's stress levels begin to rise incrementally from doing this type of thing on a daily basis. Now, it doesn't just happen with work, but it happens with other things as well. Things that bother you just a little bit today, you allow it to fester. You don't manage it. You don't deal with it. And your levels of stress are rising very incrementally, very slowly, but they're rising nonetheless. It is imperative that you learn how to deal with that stress. I've discovered that the best way to avoid burnout is to manage my stress levels. And watch this. But the best way to manage my stress levels is to manage myself, to manage me. Too many of us spend and even waste too much of our time and energy trying to control the things around us. You're wasting time. You're wasting energy. When the reality is this: you may not be able to control the things around you. You may not be able to control the people around you, but you can certainly control how you allow things around you to affect you. You can control how you allow people around you to affect you. How you respond to things, you have control over that. How long you tolerate certain things, you have control over that. Deciding even whether or not you're going to respond to certain things, you have control over those things. I've gotten to a point in my life now wherein things I used to stress over, I don't even bother to give them a second thought. I've decided it's too much work. And I've gotten too old to allow nonsense to break me down. Now, for those of you all that's going to jump on the old thing, I didn't say I've gotten old. I said I've gotten too old. Too old to allow nonsense to break me down. Now, if you want to keep living with nonsense, if you want to keep allowing nonsense to break you down, then it's your thing. Do what you want to do. Have at it. But I've decided that I'm done with that. I'm not going to be fussing and fighting with people over nonsense. I'm not going to allow people to the degree that I can control it. I'm not going to allow people to get on my nerves. I'm learning to avoid burnout by taking certain measures when I feel my stress levels rising. And I want to share with you what I do when I feel my stress levels rising, and maybe you can adopt what I do for your own personal life and get control over your life. Learn to manage you. Learn to manage you. I can't say that enough. Learn to manage you. So what do I do when I feel as though my stress levels are starting to rise? Number one, I've learned to step back from certain situations. I'm going to pause because some of you probably want to take notes on this. I've learned to step back from certain situations. Now, I don't necessarily walk out. I simply step back. I only walk out on the situations if I sense that the situation would cause me irreparable damage that cannot be repaired. If I think someone is going to cause me some irreversible damage, then I'll step out of that situation, whatever that situation might be. Number two, I redirect my time and energy towards something else that is totally unrelated to what is causing me to experience burnout. Give other things my time and attention. I'm not going to sit there and continuously focus on that situation if I know that situation is going to cause me to feel a sense of burnout, or is going to cause my stress levels to rise to levels that are unmanageable. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to find myself in a bleeding scalp situation ever again. No, I'm not. I'm not doing that. Number three, this is very important. I give myself permission to acknowledge what is actually the problem. You church people, y'all come in, lean in, and listen real close. I don't try to put a spiritual spin on a natural situation. Newsflash for some of y'all. Everything is not the devil. Now, I ought to get an amen right there somewhere in the chat room. Everything is not the devil. And quit calling the devil's name so much in your life. Oh, the devil this. Oh, the devil that. Everything's not the devil. You got to admit, sometimes it's just a matter of what you're willing to tolerate. And that's on you. Again, you have the ability to control what you respond to and how you respond to it. Yeah. Number four, I acknowledge that my stepping away is for the sake of my personal well-being, and that will help me ultimately to become the best version of myself. That's one time. When I feel my stress levels starting to rise, and I go into action to do something about it, to stop my stress levels from rising, I tell myself it's okay. That's one time where I'm not too ashamed to acknowledge that this now is all about me. Now, I know we've been taught all these lessons about humility and not being selfish and all of that, but there comes a time where you have to think about you. Because if you don't think about you, there's no longer going to be a you. Because the things that you're not handling are going to ultimately kill you. So I finally came to the conclusion that every now and then I have to do what is best for me. I told you some weeks ago about how I used to sacrifice vacation time and my time away with Lady Ann simply because I felt that it was my duty to be in the pulpit every Sunday morning because I'm serving the people. I'm their pastor, and they don't want to hear anybody preach but me. And I need to be there to meet all of their expectations and all of that. And all while I was doing that, instead of spending time for recreation. Okay, let me break that word down for you. Recreation. Taking the time to recreate myself, to replenish all that I put out. While I was trying to meet what I believe to be the needs and to gain the approval of people, my recreation was here while my stress levels were yet here. And recreation is really intended to lower your stress levels and cause you to become refreshed and replenished. But because I was shortening my time of recreation, my time of relaxation, my time of restoration, just so I could meet the expectations of other people, it was causing my stress levels to go way up. Number 5 is I share what I'm feeling with those I feel need to know, but I only do so not for the sake of getting their approval, but just for the sake of informing them and for them to understand why they are seeing certain adjustments being made in my life. Then the last thing I do, no, next to the last, I got 2 more actually. The 6th thing that I do is that I shut off the voices of people who seem not to understand that I'm doing what I'm doing for me first. If you can't understand that, you don't have nothing to say to me. I'm not listening to anything you say. If I tell you that I need to step back, I need to rest, I need a vacation, I need sabbatical, and you say, no, but I don't want to hear it no more. I used to listen, don't listen anymore. I absolutely don't listen anymore. Now, I try to be around for special days and special occasions. But if I find out that a special occasion popped up after I've already made plans for my rest and relaxation, then I'm likely going to miss the special occasion. Because the special occasion is likely not about me, but it's about somebody else. And this is one time I feel the need where I must become selfish for the sake of self-preservation. Am I making sense to anybody out there? Thank you, Lady Ann. She just put it in a nutshell. Self-care. Self-care. I'm certainly going to engage in self-care because I do care about myself. You know, it's a shame. I'm just being totally honest with you all. There was a time wherein my wife used to almost have to get angry with me for us to take a break. Outpouring myself into my work, working. Church. School. And what I wasn't noticing was the fact that while I was doing all this and pouring myself into this, that, and the other, I was getting burned out, but I wasn't noticing the fact that she was too. And me in my unattentive self at the time would be thinking, of course, she can't be getting burned out on anything because she's not doing what I'm doing. Well, what I didn't understand at the time was that she was getting more burned out because I was creating her stress levels to be raised even through neglecting her and not spending the time with her that she desired to spend. And then furthermore, there were times, and there still are times every now and then, where she just feels like I need to get away from all of this. I need to get away from church. Yes, from church. That doesn't make her ungodly or unspiritual when she says, I need to get away from church. I think I shared with this with you all not long ago. Used to be a time wherein every time we went on vacation, we made sure we packed clothes that were church appropriate. Because I was determined that I was going to find some church for us to attend, no matter where we were. Sunday morning, we got to be in church somewhere. And I know she didn't say it, but I know she was thinking it at times. my wife would be thinking, oh, brother, Lord, I'm trying to get away from this just for a little bit. Not that she didn't want to worship, not that she didn't enjoy worshiping, but every one of us, every now and then, need to take a break from the things that we find ourselves constantly engaged in. That's where burnout comes in. You're doing the same thing all the time, over and 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 over. And some of you in your spirituality might be concluding, well, you're supposed to be more spiritual than that. It doesn't have anything to do with your spirituality. It has more to do with your mental and emotional capacity, which affects your physicality. Come on. And so I finally decided in my sanctified soul, hallelujah, that we wouldn't go to hell for missing a church service on Sunday. Oh my gosh. Woo! Now y'all know I knew that. But my religion, my religious spirit wouldn't allow me to acknowledge that in my early years of pastoring. And well, in my middle years of pastoring. Well, even in some of my latter years. Wow. I'm just telling you the truth. And so now when Lady Ann and myself go on vacation, we go on vacation from everything. You know, of course, now we may decide we're going to look in on Canaan's live stream for Sunday morning worship. We may peep in on that, but we ain't getting up, getting dressed up, finding nobody's church and all that. No, those days are done. They're done. They're done. Some of you need to do the same thing. There's one more other thing. The other thing that I do when I notice that my stress levels are rising. This is real simple. This is number 7. And this will complete the list. 7 on the list means complete. That's the number of completeness, the number of perfection. Number 7, I simply rest. When I feel my stress levels rising, I rest. I'm not just talking about taking a nap. I'm talking about I rest in totality. I find a way to relax. I haven't done this in a while, and I need to get back to it. But before the pandemic hit, one of the things that I would do, one of the activities that I participated in to kind of help to decrease my stress levels was I would golf. Golfing helps me to relieve some of that stress, believe it or not. Sometimes when I'm most frustrated, especially when certain people have gotten on my nerves, I go to what is called the driving range. The driving range is where you get a bucket of balls and you just practice hitting the balls, okay, to perfect your swing, or at least make your swing a lot better than what it is, to improve your swing. That's the better word to use. And I'm telling you the truth. If it's been people who have gotten on my nerves, I take a ball, I name that ball that person. I put that ball on the tee and I hit it as hard as I can. Yeah, I do. Feels good. I'm releasing all that stress and that tension. And there have been times that I've had at least a quarter of a bucket with people's names that I place on that ball. I don't write their names on it. I just mentally, I say, this is so-and-so. Boom. Here's the problems that you're causing right now. Boom. And it releases my stress. Yes, it does. I take situations, circumstances. It's not just people, it's problems. I label those balls and I hit those balls as hard as I can. And you know what? When I'm done hitting the bucket of balls, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty stress free. I bought Lady Ann a punching bag years ago so she so she could work out some of her frustrations on the punching bag. That's real talk, y'all. You have to do certain things to relieve yourself of your stress. Absolutely. Brother Charles Shelby said, I need to try that. Yes, you do. You'll be amazed at what it can do for you. Instead of keeping it all bottled up, because you can't always talk to people about it, especially to the individual that you're frustrated with. They ain't trying to hear you no way. And so the alternative is to do something else that will help you to relieve yourself of that created stress in your life. Now, if you detect that you're experiencing burnout early on, then you can manage it while it is still in its manageable stage. Otherwise, you may wind up making a knee-jerk decision that may eventually prove that you come to regret, such as walking away from a great career. You allow things to build up on that job, and instead of managing your stress levels, all of a sudden you wake up one day and say, I quit. And it may feel good at the time that you say I quit, but then a couple of months down the road, when you're sitting there unemployed and realize you had one of the best jobs on the planet, now you're living with regret. How about ending a wonderful, promising relationship? And I'm referring to a marriage in particular. Your marriage really isn't as bad as you've made it out to be. But because you haven't managed your stress levels, everything that your spouse does now all of a sudden irritates you, and you're blaming them when you should be looking at yourself and saying, hey, you know what? All of this that I'm dealing with really has nothing to do with my spouse. This is me not managing my stress levels, and I've allowed this situation or these situations to spill over into my marriage and to affect my marriage. If you were to manage your stress levels, and you do so by managing your life, you wouldn't wind up developing an illness that could have been avoided. You fail to manage your stress levels, and eventually you'll make a knee-jerk decision, and you'll find yourself out of the will of God as a result of walking away from what he's assigned you to do. I have struggled and wrestled with that at times. There have been a couple of occasions when I came very close to allowing my stress levels to just walk out on my pastoral assignment. Kathy Johnson, you say you did that 2 weeks ago? You walked out on something? Oh, bless your heart. I pray that everything works out for you. It will. You're a believer. It'll work out for you. It'll work out for you. You know, and let me say this. God understands that our humanity. He does. God totally understands our humanity. And then God will give us grace to allow us to get some things corrected even after we've made some knee-jerk decisions. So let me encourage you in that way. And I hope you can receive that. And I'm not just talking to Sister Kathy, but I'm talking to whomever this applies to. You've made some knee-jerk decisions. And you wound up regretting them for whatever reason, you know, even as it pertains to finding yourself out of the will of God. He understands. And if we repent of our knee-jerk decisions and trust him in moving forward, God will cause your situation to come together in a way that ultimately it will be for your good. It will benefit you. But then when you don't manage yourself and manage your stress levels, uh, ultimately you'll make decisions wherein you simply lose out on the joys and fulfillment of life. And you don't want that to happen. You don't want to miss out on the joys and the fulfillment of life. When the word of God tells us that Jesus declares, I come that you may have life and that you may have it more abundantly, he was actually declaring that he wants us to live our best lives. And I believe that that would tell us living stress-free lives, or at least lives wherein we are managing our stress, managing our lives to a degree where it's not so adversely affecting us that we just fall apart. Kathy Johnson, you clarified that for me. Job of 17 years. Have faith. Company sold to bad company. Yeah, that happens too. And that can really raise your stress levels. You all of a sudden come under new management, and the new management is horrible, and they only create problems for you, and they make situations and conditions such that you stop enjoying your job. Well, again, God understands when you're going through it. Let me encourage you, have faith. Believe that God is going to set you up in something better than you had before. Yes, ma'am. You believe that. You trust and believe. As a matter of fact, every day that you wake up with that expectation. Today's going to be my day where I'm going to find something, or God is going to send me in a direction where I'm going to land a job that's even better than the one I had before. I just believe that way. And your morning mocha family is going to believe God with you. Praise God. Joyce, I just noticed what Joyce Lee put up here. I'm glad you don't call my name. It's the other church members. Oh my gosh. Is that vanity personified or what? Oh, I'm sorry. It's just confidence. I understand. Sister Joyce. Hey, listen, I got one thing to leave you with, and I'm done for the day. I want to encourage you to manage your stress by managing your life and avoid burnout. That's what I encourage you to do. So if you don't get anything else out of what's been said today, sum it up like that. And I want you to keep that in your heart. Manage your stress by managing your life and avoid burnout. That's all I have for today, y'all. God bless you. Y'all been a wonderful audience. That's why I love coming on here every morning and sharing with you all. And for all of you that are having any challenges with dealing with your stress, we're praying for you. We're praying with you. We're believing God with you that things are going to get better for you. Again, those of you that are in need, you're in need of life coaching, why not go to my website and inquire? I'll be glad to have a time of consultation with you where you can decide if we would be a good fit to work together to help you to get to where you want to be. Some of you need some coaching with regards to managing your stress levels and managing your life. Why not hit me up on my website? Drop me an email. Let me know, hey, Pastor, Dr. Cobbins, I would love to engage your services. All right. Don't let the fees frighten you, because it's all about you investing in yourself. Well, until tomorrow, as I often tell you, I want to sign off with these words. I pray that you have a blessed, wonderful, and even prosperous rest of your day. God bless.